Every story appears ordinary until you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
You're watching CoreTV News on the hour. 1 day after evading journalists at the National Council of State meeting, Adamawa State Governor Murtala Nyako was broken a silence on the impeachment saga. Nyako was at the presidential villa for a meeting and the Safe School initiative and used the opportunity to bear his mind on development in the state. He added,
Well, it is at the court. The court said it was not well done. We are hoping that if they want to do it, they'll do it following the normal process or whatever they want to do.
Did you approach the president to interview?
Not yet. It has not reached that crisis point.
And you believe you will have fair hearing?
I should have. We have supported him all this time, and he has supported us. In a situation like this, when Mr. President's support is required, we will seek it, but even hoping that he will give it to us without asking for it.
President Goodluck Jonathan has sworn in former Kano State Governor Ibrahim Shekarau and 3 others as ministers. He also handed portfolios to the new cabinet members at a brief ceremony just before the Federal Executive Council meeting.
Let me formally welcome 4 of you into the Federal Executive Council, the highest authority at the federal government level, just below the Council of State that take the decisions for the whole country. Let me, on behalf of members of the Council and indeed Nigerians, congratulate you for this appointment. But it's not an enviable appointment. So with the admission of 4 new members of the Federal Executive Council, this will be the posting. Prince Clement Adebayo Adeye will now become the Minister of State Works. Malam Ibrahim Shekarau, the Minister of Education. Dr. Stephen Orise Oru, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. Dr. Abdul Bulama, Minister of Science and Technology. Ambassador Basha Yuguda will be the Minister of State Finance and Dual as the Minister of National Planning. I congratulate all of you.
The Lagos State Police Public Relations Officer Ngozi Braid has urged Nigerians to work together with the police force at this time of high insecurity in the nation. Braid says fighting crime and insecurity in the nation is a collective responsibility.
We are doing our own, we're doing our best, our own bit. The rest is for you, you know. You don't just go home, fold your hands and say, it's not for me, it's for the law enforcement agencies. Everybody should, at this point, we should all join hands and fight crime. Any form of crime and criminality we should collectively, you know, fight it.
The Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, says it will not return to work until its members receive the 6 months arrears of allowances which the federal government owes them. The association maintained that all their demands have not been met, contrary to reports credited to the federal government. National President of the NMA, Kayode Ubembe, met the disclosure in an interview with CoreTV News in Abuja.
The number 1 issue there is that on relativity. The circular on relativity has been out since January. The Honorable Minister for Health attended our meeting in January and pleaded with us that they were going to start implementing this circular. And we said, okay, let's suspend the strike for another 3 months. Another 3 months came, this was not effected. Then came another 3 months, which is ending of this June, where we are now. The circular came again as MOU. I mean, what do you expect doctors to do? In that MOU, they are now saying, wait for another 3 months. They said, now, you are now playing on intelligence of doctors. We are not babies. You are now posed for 3 months, another 3 months, another 3 months. Now, the implication of that, if we now come back again in September and say we are going on strike, we'll be asking for arrears of 9 months, which will not be easy for government and will not be patriotic. That's why we say, okay, when it is still 6 months, let's put our foot down. Let's get the arrears of these 6 months. And then we now march along on a monthly basis. That is why the position we are in now is not just circular on that, because we got in circular on that. We have been beaten, we have been deceived 3 times on that circular alone. Unless the doctors get the alert on their phones that these 6 months have been paid, they have told me not to call them. I cannot call off the strike.
The House of Representatives witnessed a rowdy scenes during a debate on proposed amendments to the 2010 Electoral Act. A new clause had sought to grant the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the sole power to seek troops deployment for the distribution of election materials. But the House was split along party lines as rival PEP and APC caucus leaders disagree over who could deploy soldiers for election duty.
When you look at the issue of the operational use of the armed forces, a stitching time will always save 9. And we have seen clearly that where the militaries are there, the hoodlums that takes laws into their hands avoid carrying out those responsibilities. Let also be pointed out that INEC lies under the provisions of the executive. When you look at the provision of Section 5 of the Constitution, it plays majority of all the executive powers in the hands of the president. And if the president, in his wisdom, knowing fully well that the security and welfare of the citizen is the primary responsibility of government, clearly as enshrined under the provision of Section 14 sub 2, and deploy armies to make sure that the citizens of this country, that are the people that actually elected him, are safe and well secured. It bothers me when people protest against it. I therefore want to appeal that when we get to the committee levels, we will be there to dot the I's and cross the T's. But it is important for us to acknowledge that the operational use of the armed forces is a prerogative of the president. It states very, very clearly there in the Constitution. There is nothing anybody can do about it. You cannot oppose it. It's a constitutional responsibility. And if the president believes that the security and welfare of the citizens are at stake, he has the right to use that particular power.
Section 218 subsection 4 makes that prerogative for the operational use of the armed forces subject to the laws passed by this House. And we read Section 218 subsection 4. It says the National Assembly shall have power to make laws for the regulation of A, the powers exercisable by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federation. That tells you that those powers are not absolute. They are subject to laws that are passed by this House. Now, the amendment of the electoral law is a law passed by this House, and they can curtail the powers of the President. But Mr. Leo Ogo should not read the Constitution in isolation. He needs to read the Constitution not upside down, but on the face of it.
The National Council of State has ended its meeting with assurances that the 219 schoolgirls abducted about 3 months ago from Chibok in Borno State would be rescued alive. Members of the council told the journalists at the end of the meeting that they were satisfied with the security briefing that they got on the rescue efforts. They also want politicians and religious leaders to exercise restraints in matters of national security.
It's the second meeting of the National Council of State. All former heads of states were in attendance aside from retired General Muhammadu Buhari. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo was also present at the meeting where the National Security Council briefed members on the security situation. But the key issue at the session, according to council members, centered around efforts to rescue the Chibok girls.
First stop on the security was the issue of the rescue of the Chibok girls, which the military authorities also confirmed that efforts are being made, and that sooner than later, that God willing, we'll have good news. And it was also very heartwarming to note that the issue is not whether we can rescue the girls. The issue is how can we rescue them in a way that will ensure their safety, so that we don't end up in the attempt to rescue them, we endanger their lives.
On general security situation, the council expressed satisfaction with efforts to stem the insurgency. They also want Nigerians to know that the war against insurgency is not a conventional warfare.
And then what also came out is the need for Nigerians to be patient, that this kind of terrorism that we are facing now is a new challenge in Nigeria, and worldwide is not something that goes away in a day. And so we have to be very meticulous in our approach, and we have to make sure that we take the best steps forward to reduce and minimize possible loss of lives in an attempt to curb the insurgents. So we are very satisfied that, yes, indeed, the security agents know very well where the girls are located, and they are on top of the situation.
In addition to the fact that we all agree that the armed forces are doing their best, and our men and women in uniform they deserve accommodation for their effort in the face of these difficulties. And we all have to recognize the fact that just a few years back, most of us in this room will swear that there can't be a Nigerian who would commit suicide. I mean, we can't have a suicide bomber. That, you know, Nigerians, we enjoy life, we don't like dying. But all of that is history. We now know that there are some of us who are willing to play the role of suicide bombers.
There were also appeals for politicians and religious leaders to show more restraint on issues relating to national security.
We need to come together. The whole Nigerians needs to come together in order to fight this. And then the other one is the issue of politicizing this issue. We need to be in our sense in such a way that we don't play politics with the lives and property of people, so that those who are playing politics with it, when there is nobody to govern, then who are you going to govern? So it is important that we all come together, and that is what was argued.
The National Council wants the populace to show more support for the federal government and security forces to ensure that the war against insurgency is won.
Meanwhile, Edo State Governor Adams Oshiomhole says he has no hand in the crisis that engulfed the State House of Assembly. Oshiomhole says he will not allow the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to intimidate him. He was speaking on the sidelines of the National Council of State meeting in Abuja.
Election is coming, 2015, and we have defeated PDP consistently since 2009 that I assumed office. Every by-election they lost. The last National Assembly election, we defeated them in the whole of Edo South, which is about 51% of the population. We defeated them in Edo North, which is about 33% of the federation. We restricted them in Edo Central, which accounts for about 70% of the population. In my own election, with all that they boasted they were going to do, I defeated them in all the 18 local government areas, including the local government of the PDP godfather. Now, so what they try to do now is, having lost the election, having been rejected by the people, knowing that another election is coming, they want to destabilize the state, intimidate my person. And I should read one Methuselah or Lisa Metu, or by whatever name is called. He was reported as saying that I am doing what I'm destabilizing the Edo state because I want to contest for vice presidency. Now, that is studied logic upside down. If I want to contest for vice presidency, do I need to destabilize the government that I currently head? So clearly, they have let out the cat, namely that they are afraid that for their own rumor, the ambition that I want to contest for vice presidency. But the point I want to make is that if I decide even to contest for the presidency, PDP cannot intimidate me. I have a right to do so if it is my conviction.
The All Progressives Congress has lampooned the People's Democratic Party and its governorship candidate in Osun State, Iyola Omishere, for their electioneering stunts ahead of the August 9 poll in Osun. Omishere was recently pictured with roasted corn, a popular meal among the masses, in what was termed the fire show effect, following the streetwise tactics of the governor-elect of Ekiti State. APC criticized Omishiri for the maxed security man following him around and for his made for television eating of roasted corn and riding commercial motorcycle. In a statement issued in Abuja by the National Publicity Secretary of the party, Lai Mohammed, APC says Omishiri is afraid of his own shadows, hence his use of masked security man. Mohammed added that he wondered how a man who wants to rule a state would be afraid to move freely among the same people whose votes he is canvassing for. The APC spokesman advised the PDP candidate to emulate Governor Rauf Aregbesola, who the party claimed is barely distinguishable from the ordinary citizens of the state. Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola has advised artisans in the state to be security conscious. Fashola gave the advice at a town hall meeting aimed at explaining the activities of the Lagos Homes Ownership Mortgage Schemes. Abiola Oluwole was there. His report is now presented from our studios.
The response by different group of artisans was encouraging. The purpose is to intimate the artisans about various programs of the Lagos State government. These include the ongoing registration of commercial drivers, which the governor says is free of charge. The meeting also deliberated on how the artisans can benefit from Lagos Homes Initiative. Governor Fashola says the meeting is a follow-up to the research of government to ensure the operators of informal sectors benefit from the Lagos Homes Initiative.
What we need to do now is how to help them order their record keeping in such a way as to qualify, because artisans, tradesmen don't earn their money monthly on the same scale that salaried employees do. Their income comes, sometimes they earn money for a whole year in one transaction, sometimes there's a lot. So those are the things that we've been talking about, and I think that there's a lot more understanding now. We always planned that we would have this town hall meeting. So many other issues, especially challenges of security, have now made it auspicious to deal with everything together.
The interactive session is expected to help artisans take decisions that would eventually improve their living standards.
The House of Representatives has asked the Nigeria Customs Service to be more proactive in checking the activities of economic saboteurs, saying that the nation's borders are as porous as ever. They demanded an end to the influx of goods that are seen as threats to local industries. The lawmakers unanimously agreed that stiffer penalty be taken against custom officers who collaborate with smuggglers.
You agree with me that during the war in Libya, most of the guns used in Libya, 50% of these guns end up in Nigeria. And most of these guns are being used to kill our innocent citizens today. If our borders is secure, honestly speaking, their nation will be secure. Every country then is supposed to have a policy to encourage the production of local products. In the case of Nigeria, there are some bans on some of these products to encourage the local production of these products. Our Committee on Customs and Excise should go into ways to find ways of making the customs more effective and less corrupt. The mandate that the Nigeria Customs and Excise has is to prevent the illegal entrance of goods and services to our country. But rather than check that, what we have in place is a situation where even the custom officers are abating in the smuggling of prohibited goods into our country. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is something that should be of great concern to all of us if our government has to work.
You're watching CoreTV News on the hour. We'll take a break and I'll be back with stories from outside Nigeria. Stay with us.
CoreTV News now provide a platform for live coverage of political rallies and electioneering campaign from anywhere in Nigeria. Political news stories, political editorial reviews, political discussions, personality profile, people's parliament from the national, state and local government assembly. Contact us now on 0803-471-8550 or 0803-724-9733. 01453-3407.
Our 24-hour news station. You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
Hello and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Hello and welcome back. Indonesia's vote in the tightest and most divisive presidential election since the downfall of dictator Suharto, pitting Jakarta Governor Joko Widodo against Prabowo Subianto, an ex-general with a checkered human rights record. After a bitterly fought campaign that saw longtime favorite Widodo's lead shrink dramatically, voters in the world's third biggest democracy must choose between two starkly different candidates. A former furniture exporter from a humble background, Widodo, known by his nickname Jokowi, is the first presidential contender without links to the authoritarian past. Should he win, he is seen as likely to usher in a new style of leadership and consolidate democracy. Prabowo, on the other side, is a former son-in-law of Suharto, who was admitted ordering the abduction of democracy activists before the strongman's downfall in 1998. He has won support with promises of firm leadership in a country where many yearn for a strong figurehead. But critics fear he may sweep Indonesia back towards into authoritarian rule. Presidential candidate Abdullah claimed victory on Tuesday in Afghanistan's disputed election, and now is blaming fraud for putting him behind in preliminary results as fears rise of instability and ethnic unrest. Abdullah told thousands of supporters in Kabul that he will fight on to win the presidency. He called for patience from loyalists who demanded he declare a parallel government to rule the country. A huge photograph of President Hamid Karzai was ripped down from the stage, underlining the boiling anger among Abdullah's supporters after the preliminary result in favor of poll rival Ashraf Ghani. The election standoff has sparked concern that protests could spiral into ethnic violence. Independent Election Commission head Ahmad Yusuf Nuristani admitted that there had been fraud by the security forces and senior government officials. And that's it on CoreTV News at this hour. Join me again at 9:45 for the CoreTV Primetime News. Stay with us.